Today's video is for a beer style that I've never had before. This is a cold IPA. It's a New Zealand cold IPA from Bristol Brewery Arbor in this massive pint can. What's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to be reviewing Heart of Cold. This is from Arbor Ales, as you can tell, with this very distinctive 1 pint size can. And this is a New Zealand cold IPA. So what the hell is a cold IPA? Well, it's basically an IPA that's fermented at a lot sort of colder temperature. So it's more in style, more sort of, it's going to be a crisper sort of beer. It's going to be probably less hazy. It's going to be more like a lager, where a cold IPA and an India Pale Lager, where they sort of are different, I'm not quite sure. But I think this is more about the fact that it's still got all those flavours of the hops, but at the same time it's a much more crisper, crushable sort of style, more in line with lager. So, you know, if you're a lager lover and you love IPAs, this is probably a really great combination. So this is cold fermented with New Zealand hops, Nelson Sauvin, Muteka and Rawaka. And it is 6.2%. And again, in this massive big can. So let's crack it open, get it in a glass and see what a cold IPA is all about. Yeah, I mean, straight away you can see this certainly looks more like a lager. It's got, you know, a lot more sort of cleaner looking, clearer, less, certainly not hazy. There is a slight haze to it, but to be honest, that looks like a craft lager. Quite a lot of carbonation you can see sticking to the glass. I don't know, it's going to be much more fizzier, a lot more prickly in that carbonation than we'd normally expect with a sort of softer IPA. Yeah, I mean, in a glass, I'd say that looks very much like a lager. Let's see what the aromas are like. Yeah, I mean, it's even got that sort of smell of a lager. I'm getting sort of very sort of much more maltier, clean. There is a sort of slight citrusy aroma. And I'm picking up slight sort of hints of those sort of, you know, that sort of Nelson Sauvin distinct great white grape. But it's not overly pungent. It just smells really clean. But it's got that sort of aroma that just says, drink it down. So that's what I'm going to do. Cheers, everyone. It's quite strange because mouthfeel wise, it's much more like a lager. It's not quite as carbonated as I thought it was, but it's definitely got more of a prickly carbonation than you would expect from an IPA. There's this sort of, you almost can taste the coldness, the crispness, like with a lager. I mean, lager, you know, you get that sort of malty profile, but generally speaking, it's not got huge amounts of flavour. And this is similar in terms of that sort of profile. Very clean, very lagery. I mean, I say that, so that's the sort of lager in it. It's clean, it's fresh sort of tasting, loads of refreshment. It's definitely a good sort of summery sort of beer to drink. But then, as it sort of calms down in your mouth, you are starting to pick up some of those New Zealand sort of flavours. There's citrus fruits in there. There's your kiwi and your melon, your gooseberry and your grape. But if it compared to, say, a New Zealand IPA, not a cold fermented IPA, usually get loads of flavour in there, but you're not getting as much flavour for me. You're really getting that sort of coldness, the crispness, that sort of the light malt sort of flavour, much more than you are getting the sort of those sort of green sort of fruits that you get with a New Zealand IPA. Say anything more about it. I mean, I think as well that sometimes it uses uses lager sort of malts in there, opposed to sort of some of the other sort of malts that are used. Is it a style of beer that I'm going to be a massive fan of? No, I mean, there's a time for it. I mean, if you're sort of a big lager drinker and sometimes you want something with a bit more flavour, then this is really great because it's like drinking a more fruitier lager. But we do, you know, to some extent, you can have a pale ale that tastes like a fruitier lager. Where it's sort of the IPA, there's not the body, there's lots of carbonation, it's quite light, it's quite thin, there's not that sort of thick gloopiness that you get with IPAs. And although I can tell this has got New Zealand hops in it, thinking of some of the other really great IPAs I've had where you get all that sort of, you know, that slight, even savoury flavour that you get with IPAs. There's so much more flavour in this. But with this, because of its cold fermented, I'd almost think that a lot of that flavour has been sort of like, almost like, the cold has almost frozen that sort of flavour, so it doesn't really come to the forefront. I don't know whether maybe, I mean, this is quite, I am drinking this sort of quite out of the fridge. I don't know whether you know, even though it's a cold IPA, that you should warm it up a little bit. But even so, a lot of IPAs that I do drink, I don't usually have them. I have them out of the fridge for maybe 20 minutes or so. This has been out maybe 10 minutes. But again, the flavour is just not really as pungent as you would expect. It's light, it's refreshing, and it's, you know, for a 6.2%, it's pretty smashable. You know, it tastes like a 4.5% lager really in terms of its strength. Really, you can really knock back some of these. So on a hot summer's day, then this is a really good beer to drink. As I say, it is what you would expect. It's a very sort of lagery sort of profile beer, but with more flavour, with just more flavour. But so comparing it to a lager, I think, you know, there's a lot of good things going for it. But comparing it with an IPA, I think I'd rather drink an IPA because you can get that refreshment, but you also get that flavour and that mouthfeel that's really missing for this sort of beer. Because to me, it's almost like to me, it's very similar to some, you know, India Pale lagers that I've had. It's very much more like that. A little bit more flavour, that you are getting some of the hot profiles coming through, but it seems a little bit alien just because you're not getting that sort of smooth, sort of creamy mouthfeel that you get with an IPA. Not bad, but I'm not going to be rushing out to buy a cold IPA. I don't think so. It's one of those sort of styles that probably will come and go. Really, it won't be a mainstay, I don't think, of many beers. But let me know, is there a cold IPA that you've had that's really good? I mean, this probably is a pretty good one. New Zealand hops, obviously that was the other sort of big feature that I was quite impressed with. And Arbor Ale make good beers. It's a good beer, but it's definitely not a great beer. And it wouldn't be something that I'd want to try and really drink again. But, you know, on a hot summer's day, which probably have passed now, we're sort of into September, I would probably say, yeah, give it a miss. But until that, so I hope you've enjoyed this review. Again, let me know if you've had a cold IPA. I'm really interested to know what you think of the style of beer. And the scores will be coming up for this beer after the break. And until then, keep on rocking. Okay, the scores are in for Arbor Ales Cold of Heart. It's a New Zealand cold IPA from Arbor Ales, the Bristol brewery, in this big pint can. I have to almost hold it back so you can see its whole pint. Yeah, not bad, but let's get those scores. So, starting off with aroma, appearance, flavour, value for money, and overall experience. And that gives a overall score, a recommended, not highly recommended, score of